Good evening. A bit of relief and closure tonight for the family of a Lloydminster man who was brutally stabbed and beaten in Edmonton nearly 8 years ago, as the person responsible was sentenced today. Cliff Decoine-Zuniga has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for the manslaughter of Dylan McGillis in November of 2006. Now, 20-year-old McGillis was swarmed and stabbed to death on White Avenue, that's Edmonton's entertainment district. Decoine-Zuniga was the only person charged in his death in 2011. But the Crown points out the person responsible for the fatal blow remains at large. Now, Edmonton Police continues to investigate. Now, it's budget day here in Saskatchewan. The government has announced a budget that holds the line on spending and doesn't increase taxes, but it also doesn't save for the future. Now, it includes a revenue of $14.7 billion and spending of $14 billion, leaving a thin surplus of $71 million. Now, the government decided not to raise the education part of property taxes to pay for things such as roads and bridges. It also includes money to create 500 new childcare spaces, to reduce surgical wait times, and to go towards a new stadium in Regina. Now, the government isn't putting money into a fund for the future until Saskatchewan's $3.8 billion debt is paid off. Well, it's a dark chapter in our Canadian history. 150,000 Indigenous children were separated from their families and forced to attend residential schools. But a group of people don't want it to be forgotten. Cassandra Jadwin has more.
In an act to bring awareness to those affected by violence in residential schools, a group of 4 non-Indigenous people have decided to make a 550-kilometer journey from Stony Knoll, Saskatchewan to Edmonton, calling it an honor walk.
It is an opportunity, I think, one primarily to recognize survivor stories, those we know back in Winnipeg, those we've met in Saskatoon.
A big part of it personally for me is learning, and then also learning how to support them and to express love to them in a way that they can understand it better.
The group is made up of Christians who are willing to say that their church played a big part in residential schools, but not always positively.
I think it's really important for the church to hear those stories, even though it may be difficult or challenging, and for a younger generation who's growing up to sort of think about the wrongs of the past as we move forward in the future.
While the 20-day trek is a chance for the group to reflect on many different things, it's not hard to ignore the toll it takes on their bodies. And some are feeling it less than others.
I feel good. I was quite happy to have a day off yesterday. It was our only day off on this walk. We're halfway. But yeah, I feel physically quite good.
While others aren't so lucky.
It takes a little toll on your body. The first couple of days you're full of energy, and now we're starting to feel some of the aches and pains.
Well, I'm feeling all right today. I've been pretty sore, but we've got another half the journey to go, so I'm sure it'll get worse before it gets better.
The border city is the halfway point for the Honor Walk on their 20-day journey. Their destination is Kit Scotty today, on their way to Edmonton. Cassandra Jadwin, Newcap News.
Well, a man who was supposed to stand trial in Edmonton for the murder of an elderly couple learned today that he won't be. Now, the Crown stayed the charges against Travis Vader, who was accused of killing the couple who was on vacation road trip when they disappeared. And as we see in this next story, those who knew the couple worry now that they may never know the truth.
The mystery of what happened to Lyle and Marie McCann seems to be as unclear now as it was when they first disappeared 4 years ago. Their bodies were never found, but Travis Vader was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. But today, the Crown decided to stay those charges.
I'm not in a position to make any comment today.
Officials wouldn't say much, only that new information from the RCMP led to the decision. The McCanns were last seen fueling up their motorhome on July 3rd, 2010. It was found burnt out 2 days later, about 150 kilometers west of Edmonton. The police were notified, but they didn't start investigating until 5 days after that, when the couple failed to show up to meet their family in BC. Hundreds of officers worked on the case and the search was extensive. But what evidence the police had against Vader was always unclear, and his lawyer says there's a reason for that.
It was shoddily gathered, and it was a bunch of strings that was never tied together.
This is the street where the McCanns used to live. today when their former neighbors found out that at this point, Travis Vader is no longer facing murder charges and not going to trial. They told me they were disappointed, but not surprised.
I have to say I wondered right from the beginning if they actually had enough to hold over for that, but it sounds as if they didn't. And my heart goes out to the family.
Yeah, I really don't know what to think. I kind of had suspected that there was more information that we weren't aware of.
Now the question is, will the McCann's family ever have answers?
I feel really sorry for them because closure will never take place if, as long as they're missing and they don't know what happened to them.
And don't know who is responsible. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Edmonton.
Well, the official start to spring is less than 24 hours away, but will the weather follow the calendar? It's a question on the minds of many after a long, cold winter. And as Annika Notveit reports, well, we're wondering if Mother Nature will cooperate.
It's not quite time to till up the ground and put the garden seeds in yet, and as meteorologist Josh Clausen predicts, you might want to keep the tools in the shed for a bit longer.
I do think we're going to see a bit of a cool down here in the immediate future, so the first 5 or so days of spring are probably setting up to be a little bit cooler than average and somewhere below 0 for daytime highs.
He says it's hard to make long-range forecasts during the seasonal changes, but probably won't get away without seeing snow.
Whether or not we're going to see, another big snowfall between now and the end of April, I would bet that we'll see at least one, because almost every spring we get at least one big dump of snow.
But those in the border cities seem to expect this and are resilient when it comes to another wave of winter.
We know it'll go away pretty soon.
Not quite done with winter yet.
Really?
Yeah, I love my winter.
Well, I've got a big jacket and I've got a wood stove at home that I throw an extra log on and things are good.
Turn the thermostat up.
We expect that we'll have our spring storm yet.
Meteorologists say at this time of year the weather can change in a hurry, and even though we're expecting a cooler start to spring, it sure feels like it is just around the corner. Annika Notveit, Newcap News.